G'day gang, Simo and Ed here, and we're going to talk to you about the best spots for a go-kart track to go fishing.
We certainly are.
And we're not talking, you know, the rod and bait type of fishing.
Critters.
So, places to go fishing.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's lots of talk globally at the moment around recession. I've seen a couple of comments recently about people saying, I know how to deal with recession. I'm not taking part. And there's a lot to be said for that sort of sentiment, but equally, yeah, you can't ostrich at the moment. You can't bury your head in the sand.
No.
It's very animalistic based today, isn't it? Fishing, ostriches. We'll see how we get on with that.
You just have to fish in a different pond, don't you?
You do. So you can't just do nothing if there's a recession coming on board, right? So everything's changing constantly in business. The one thing that you really, really have to do is start thinking, well, what next? How do we go and make this happen? So true, I think recession is coming. You don't have to be a casualty of it. You can start to look at that stuff and start to think about where the bigger spends are going to come from. How do you get more from the people that are already at your track? How to future-proof, to start looking a little bit forward. Is there any untapped potential areas? And what's the real big margin products that you maybe want to go and start to explore? So we're going to explore some of that for this video.
Cool. So you're with Simo and Ed, and this is the Fast Line Track Race Show, where we talk all things karting and business, fishing. We're talking a couple of lines and rods and a few tinnies.
Yeah, there you go.
So, different markets to fish in.
Yeah,
Come up with 4, haven't we?
5 different areas, but yeah. So we this isn't an exhaustive list, but if you're sat there and you haven't done anything in response to the fact recession's coming, then this will certainly whet the appetite, and you don't have to think any further than this video. Just explore these ideas.
I mean, the big thing we noticed lately is that I think a lot of tracks have thought, oh, there's a recession coming, let's just stop spending.
Yeah.
And they've stopped spending on marketing.
Yeah,
and like we did an exercise of going through Facebook feed yesterday.
Okay.
And we scrolled through, and there were breadth. There was no tracks, very few tracks marketing on Facebook.
Crazy. And
you know, I know out there talking to customers that there's some customers who are absolutely killing it out there, and they haven't stopped their marketing.
Yeah.
And then there are other customers out there that are complaining. And I bet you bottom dollar they've stopped or curtailed their marketing.
Well, no, I'm just going to sort of add a little bit. My suspicion here is that they've stopped marketing because they've seen diminishing returns from their activity. And that's because if you haven't changed with the times and gone to flow in like line with the currents, just to keep the fishing analogy going, then you're going to suffer. So you might have been seeing declining returns off your advertising. And thought, well, that's the end of that. I'm not going to put any more money into this. But actually, that's the wrong response to that incident. The correct response would be like, that doesn't work. What do we need to get back to? We talk a lot about this from the stage at our events, but what do you get stuck into?
Yeah, is it the right market? Are you targeting the right market? Have you got the right message?
Yeah.
You know,
and both of those. So we're going to tackle that actually today. What is the correct market to look at in our viewpoint? We won't do the messaging today.
No.
Maybe another day.
So what's the first market we've pinpointed?
Yeah, so I think corporates is a huge area to get stuck into. Right.
I mean, I know there's going to be track owners screaming at the screen now, going, "Oh, the corporates are gone. They've gone. They left in 2009 after that recession." And yeah, they did. The big corporate groups have left.
Yeah.
The corporates are still doing stuff. They may do it on a smaller scale. And I mean, look, we've had the last 2 Christmases ruined by COVID. Yeah. So there's a pent-up demand. And some of those people in the UK, at least, they probably never met their office mates.
That's right. So there's different reasons to get involved.
There's a requirement for corporates to do some team building. So there is a market there. You just need to tap into it. You mightn't get the hundreds of people down at the track. You might get 10, 20, 30.
Perfect. But equally,
it's easy to deal with.
Well, it's not 2009 anymore, and it's time to get back into those corporate markets. If you get it done right, you got to look at what the customer experience is, right? To go and get that right, to go and make that easier for the sale to happen, right? But the bigger spends, when done right, will actually just flow in. Yeah. And I don't know how many corporates you entertain at your track, and you may or may not know. I hope you've got a figure in your head. but I bet it's fairly low numbers for most track owners. So let's hazard a guess. If it's half a dozen, right? Those half a dozen may or may not come back this Christmas, right? But actually, just to go and find 8 or 10 customers to replace them in a corporate market is very, very achievable.
And it's not hard to do.
No, well,
I mean, you could use the good. Yeah, it's simple.
Not easy.
Not easy.
So it might be hard to do, but it's a simple approach will give you the benefit of that activity.
We're going to show one of those approaches at the karting spectacular.
We are definitely going to show you something that will blow your socks off in Dortmund. But hey ho.
Something that other B2B providers have done very well.
Yeah.
You know, and it's easy to do.
So, absolutely. Well, so simple. Simple, easy. We're going to have that conversation all day, I feel. But that's cool. Right, so the first one is corporate. Revisit it. You know, don't make those same assumptions. The world has changed. Move on with it. Go and work out. Tell me how you're going to get 8 to 10 corporates down the track above and beyond what you're doing already, not dismiss the whole thing.
Next. Second one?
Yeah.
The mad racers.
The mad race. Every track's got a mad racer that is just like... basically has, you know, petrol and electric going through their veins while they're going to race around the track, right? They're your bread and butter, right? But I'm not sure through a conversation with lots of tracks that many people sit down and go, how do we create more mad racers down at the track here?
Yeah, no, I don't think they celebrate them enough. You know, we were talking about, I was talking to a guy from Oz.
Yeah.
And he runs a couple of programs throughout the week. One for kids, one for females, and one for older guys.
Cool.
And it's a race format.
Oh, really? Cool.
Right. And he was telling me that he's able to draw off his software system the amount of kilometres any one driver has done. And he was talking to this one kid from his driver's academy. Yeah. And he's talking to his kid and the parent, and he said, do you know, you've done 300 kilometres around our track.
Wow.
And they're going, oh, wow.
Yeah, that's impressive.
That is impressive.
Yeah.
But I think they missed a trick.
Yeah, what does he do with that information?
Yeah.
Oh, what? It doesn't do anything with it?
No. He didn't explain he did anything with that information. He just told that person, so that person was unaware. But I'd be going, hang on a minute.
I'd make a big thing about this.
Yeah.
Really big.
You thinking what I'm thinking, B1?
Well, I'm just thinking about... I've got flashbacks. You know, we talk about fishing. I'm thinking swimming now in that lake, in that river. Right? What happened when you first learned to swim? You got badges, didn't you? Yeah. You used to sew them onto your trunks. Probably don't do that anymore.
It was like Boy Scouts. You get a different badge.
Yeah. Nah.
Brownies for the girls, you know.
This is why when you get... Like, so Facebook are really good at this. Like, when you do something, they go, well done. If you get to the bottom of some feed, they normally go, well done, you're up to date with all your information. They do this because the dopamine hit is massive. Yeah. And you should never underestimate what that does in terms of pulling people closer to you and spending more time with you. Hopefully that'll equate to money. Right? So if I had that sort of knowledge... I'd have me 100 metre certificate, 100 kilometre certificate, 250, 500, something awesome would happen at 1,000 kilometres. Right, and I'd make it a thing, an achievable target, and I'd maybe have a time frame. So if you hit 1,000 kilometres in a year, oh boy, the red carpet comes out.
Now you're working on affinity marketing, and you're making them feel part of. And the in crowd.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you can have the 500 club, the 1,000 club, and you can even put them on the wall. Pictures on the wall, like we've got our customers here. You know, so the 1,000 club, you get a picture on the wall, and you get a certificate to display at home.
I've got so many things going through my head with this. I think this is a really cool idea. I think the one thing, if you're sitting down and somebody's looking outwards, then there's an endless track of kilometres and kilometres and kilometres, then there may be a time when I'm just not going to do it. Right? Because it's just the same old almost.
Yeah.
But even the people that aren't yet your mad racers, who are thinking, right, I really want that certificate, or I want to go and get to the 1,000 kilometres. By the time you've got there, if you've done the experience right, you've built your bread and butter. It's such a broad base. You've made yourself recession proof because it's an achievable target for them.
Yeah.
So really smart. And it ties into something else we're doing in Dortmund.
Yeah,
I don't want to.
Well, we haven't tied it all together, but there's going to be a very special announcement.
Well, yes.
In Dortmund about a way where you can really tap into
that
these
in a massive way.
Mad races and get them coming back and back and back.
Can't wait to unveil that.
You know, it's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge. Right. Next one.
Well, we talked a bit about future-proofing there in Mad Races, but where does it start? So I would be targeting everybody who's coming in for a teen birthday.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Now, I don't know what you do with that information. It needs handling sensitively, so whoever's birthday it is or whatever is happening, you need to let them know that there's bits of marketing they can get involved in. I might set up a teen club. I'm not going to call it teen club because it's got to feel more adult, but really with some safeguarding around it, right? But I can future-proof if I can get my next market to start coming through my track.
Yeah.
Now, once I start to do that and I start to build that up, if I've got 5 years worth of people coming through the ranks, and I know roughly what that looks like in terms of revenue for the track, I can certainly sleep a lot more easier at night, and I can start to then cash flow forecast and work out what's going to happen in the near future. So really, really smart to tap into that younger market to go future-proof your track.
Yeah.
So simple. But what do you actually do down your track to do that?
I mean, you can, if you identify those younger mad racers, it's easy to put them through.
Yeah.
And you can probably start to identify them by lap times and things like, how many times they visit.
Yeah.
And you just focus. It's all about segmenting your database.
Yeah, a little bit of merch. Won't go too far on this here. I mean, merchandise is cheap to really get in the grand scheme of things, right? So a few bits and pieces, the odd hat here, the t-shirt, bits and pieces that they do for just turning up.
I mean, why wouldn't you give them a hat for hitting 500 kilometres on your track? Surely they've got have been there enough times to.
If it was 500, I'd be doing a lot more. But early days at the team birthday, I might just go. If you turn up next time, you get a free hat. If you turn up again in the same year, you get a t-shirt, right? So, and this is only going to cost me £2 or £3 a t-shirt or something like that. But for my teen audience, where I know my future is potentially within there, I'm going to really look after them to pull them through, so they feel part of the track. I know some of them will running off and university and all the rest of it, but there'll be a core of people that just return to the track because they're still wearing the t-shirt, they've got the hat, they've got the bits and pieces. And I wouldn't skimp on it either.
No.
I'd want them all to get involved. Cool.
Now, all right, gang, that's probably enough for this week. But next week, we're going to reveal a market that most of you probably have never considered going after.
I'm going to go one step further. I don't think any kart track in the world globally has tapped into the market we're going to share with you in the next video.
All right. Well, that's it from me.
Cheerio from me.
And we'll see you next week.
See you soon.